welcome back into the show. And we're starting part 2 here. We're going to go right into the East, which is Duke's bracket. And I'm sure we both got Duke, so we can kind of roll through and talk about Mississippi State, Baylor. So give me your thoughts here. I think this is an interesting 8-9, like probably the least interesting out of all of them. But like here, like I think a lot of people would instinctively go Baylor, but I think it's interesting.
Yeah, definitely the least interesting, but one with a coach who's won a national championship or a team that's won a national championship, right? Like that's pretty crazy, to have another one. I know we had Gonzaga earlier, but another 8-9 game, or sorry, not Gonzaga, UConn earlier, another 8-9 game. So people are definitely picking Baylor in this one, which surprised me. I feel like, Baylor struggling-ish in the Big 12 versus what Mississippi State did in the SEC. I would probably lean SEC here, but people are definitely giving Baylor their credit. They're a tournament team. They have a coach that doesn't like to lose in the first round. I definitely could see, maybe a more rested, guard-heavy Baylor team taking it to Mississippi State, which has been, maybe one of the teams that you and I weren't as sold on in the SEC as the others. So interested to hear you picking. I'm leaning Mississippi State. Just I think the losses for Baylor are sticking out to me. I think Mississippi State has beat enough good teams to earn this one. So I've got Mississippi State and Duke in the next round.
Yeah. I have the same. Only guy to watch out for, like NBA draft wise, is VJ Edgecombe. He's awesome. He's going to be a top pick. That made me want to pick Baylor, but Josh Hubbard is a stud on Mississippi State, and I feel like he gets the job done, and he's the best college player on the floor. Overall, I think that's what gets Mississippi State done. And they had a couple like solid wins. They beat A&M throughout the year, and he's just tough. It's just tough, man. And I feel like, especially like first round here, it's like, okay, middle of the pack SEC or middle of the pack Big 12. And Baylor's normally not middle of the pack Big 12, but the Big 12 is deep this year. They're not as good as we thought they'd be, the Big 12, but like still pretty deep. And I was kind of shocked that Baylor got a 9 seed, to be honest. I thought they probably should have gotten a 10 seed or an 11 seed, but hard to put Baylor there.
Baylor's got good metrics. They're number one in defensive rating in terms of strength of schedule. Like they definitely have had to take some lumps. So glad the committee reached on that one. And the Big 12 is still strong, but I don't think it's as strong as the SEC. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, and then Duke over Mississippi State. I think that's pretty, yeah.
Yeah, I'm super interested to see if this Cooper Flag injury is a smokescreen, or I doubt he's going to play much in the first game because they're going to blow the team out. But he's supposed to be healthy, If there's ever a team that's going to, come out and punch him in the mouth, it's one of these two teams that has nothing to lose. But I like Duke here. Could see a bunch of other teams facing him, but I think Duke has the easiest draw of all 1 seeds, and they're just the best team. I've watched them, seen their analytics, but also seen them play. They're the best team in this field. I like them to go pretty far. I've got them Sweet 16 and then Elite 8 versus actually whoever they play.
Yeah. I have them in my Elite 8 as well. So we can kind of, just throw that out there. But 5 seeds, Oregon and Liberty. I think this is kind of interesting. Everybody's looking at Liberty like, oh, this is the shooting team. Like, this is the team that can get hot and like scare everybody. And this is what we talk about with Liberty every time they're in the tournament. And to be honest, I'm sick of it. I'm over it. Okay. I pick them every time. I fall in love with them. And this year I'm not doing it. Oregon, Dana Altman. I mean, he's just a stud coach. Like, don't get me wrong. Like 8 seed in the Big Ten. I was like, wait, they're a 5 seed in the, that's just how good the Big Ten is. Like it was that good throughout the year. And Oregon really hit their stride late. They just ran into a hot Michigan State team that was just as hot as them. In that Big Ten tournament, and they played them tough. Like they got a couple studs on that team, and to be honest, I just think I feel like you got to go Oregon in this scenario. What do you think here?
Yeah, I agree. I think that the depth of the Big Ten definitely earned them some seeds that might have been higher than I thought. I think Oregon might be even overseeded for how they played, and there's some other teams we'll talk about in this region that might be overseeded. But, to their credit, Oregon traveled well. They joined a conference with majority Eastern Conference games, and they did pretty well. They went to East Lansing and won a game, right? They traveled to Big Ten teams that are hard to win at and won. Even though the Big Ten might have been down as a overall conference, they were deeper than they've ever been, right? Adding the 4 Pac-12 teams. So credit to Oregon there. I think this 5-12 and 4-13 is the weakest of the tournament. Not saying that the
Yeah,
teams aren't good. All of them can do something. Like, they're definitely hard to beat. But in terms of a Duke 1 seed, this is definitely the best matchup for a 1 seed in the tournament, and that includes Oregon and Arizona and Akron, as we'll talk about. So, no shame in picking Liberty. Oregon's coach has never lost a first-round game in the tournament, ever, in his career.
it's
No losses.
crazy.
So, I'm going
It's
to ride that.
crazy.
I think Oregon is going to play in the next round against Arizona or
Yeah, no, they were in Pittsburgh last year as the 11th seed. I don't remember who they were playing. Or no, they played Creighton the next round. But yeah, I mean, they're just really impressive in person. Like, they're super physical, they're tough, all it that's just how Oregon is. And Altman wins in March, and I'm excited for them. I think that'll be a fun game. It is at
Yeah, I think
10-10.
their 7-footer
So,
is
but
skilled. I think that their point guard is built for March. I'll look up his name right now. I need to give him the shout out. But Biddle, their 7-footer, can
yeah,
shoot the three.
Jackson
That's a
Shellstat.
matchup part.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jackson Shellstat is a gamer, but Biddle being able to shoot the three is not going to be boding well for Liberty, who's not going to be able to force the bigs as the Big Ten has against them. So yeah, like Oregon there, but Akron, Arizona, I looked at for a while. I could go either way. Interested to see what you think.
Yeah. I watched a lot more Akron last year, partly because they were in the Cayman Islands with us. And from what I've watched this year, like, I'm still not really that impressed. They don't have like an upset kind of resume, you know. And then when I've watched Arizona at the beginning of the year, we talked about how disappointing they were to start. And then they really picked it up when the Big
Yep.
12 started. And that's what it seems like Tommy Lloyd does every year. It's really impressive there. And I've watched him a little more just because Trey Townsend's on the team. And
Yep.
Overall, I think Arizona's got this one. With these 4 and 5 seeds, like, we both picked Duke to come out of this thing, and I think Oregon Arizona will be an interesting matchup. I'm not high on the fact that Arizona can win that game. I actually have Oregon moving on to the Sweet 16 there. I think Arizona just got hot, like, to end the regular season and to get their seeding, but Lloyd's got to prove something to me in March, because right now, like, I'm not picking him.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think that the loss last year is going to fuel them to at least win this first round game. Take Akron seriously, which you need to. The MAC
Yeah.
was down overall as a conference. I thought Miami, Ohio could do something special, but Akron pretty much had a hold on it the whole year, and they just weren't that impressive to me. We're close to Michigan in a scrimmage at the beginning of the year, put in a little bit of tape there. But
Mhm.
Arizona, tough matchup. I think that don't overthink it with coaches. Arizona, versus Dana Holtman in Oregon the next round. More exciting matchup there. So agree with you. Don't have many more notes.
Gotcha. Let's scroll down. We got BYU, VCU. I'm interested to hear your thoughts here. I think a lot of people, I heard a lot of brackets when I was watching on CBS Sports and ESPN. A lot of people have VCU in like their Elite Eight or Sweet 16. So talk to me about this one and what you see here in this game.
Yeah, so I was staring at this one for a while, and I only fill out one bracket. I'm a one bracket guy. Sometimes when maybe I'm thinking I'm picking a little too homer towards the Wolverines back when I was in college, I might have done a second, but I have one bracket and I'm staring at it, and I went both ways with these teams. It's going to be very interesting when you hear my reasoning for it. I like BYU. I like their new coach a lot. I think that he brought in a lot of great players, but also BYU has a culture where people stay, and he's able to benefit from that. I think that they were kind of getting stale with Mark Pope. I think that it's glad that he went to Kentucky because, he had some good BYU teams that didn't do a lot in March. BYU, played as one of the best teams in the Big 12, definitely gave the business to teams like Kansas and people that you expect to go deep, right? They've had the strength of schedule that maybe VCU hasn't had, and that's why I like BYU in this one. I picked VCU originally. I do like their team. I'm a Zeb Jackson fan. He's a 6-man, went to Michigan originally and transferred there. The A-10 is a two-bid conference in my mind. I was actually pretty upset that George Mason didn't get more of a nod.
Yeah.
And you know what? There was no bid stealer, right? Last year, Duquesne did it. And Duquesne won a game, right? Like, A-10 is, I think, a little better than people might give it credit for. Dayton, too, right? They had a down year and were still one of the best Ken Palm teams. So the fact that VCU was able to not only win the regular season, but then win the tournament is pretty impressive. So they definitely have a lot of talent. They know what they're doing. I think Phil Martelli Jr. is an up and coming, superstar. I worked with his dad. Like he's obviously a legend of the game, and I think his kid knows what's up. I think he actually just got the nod somewhere else head coach. But VCU breeds great coaches, so it's definitely someone that I'm interested in. The reason I'm picking BYU is that after all of VCU's work and winning the Atlantic 10 on a Sunday, they got to travel to Denver and play in Mountain Standard Time against a mountain team like BYU. And
Yeah.
I hate that matchup for ECU. I hate it. I think they're traveling right into the teeth of the beast. They're obviously going to be a favorite upset pick. I like BYU to win in a quote unquote home region game.
Yeah, I like that. You're kind of talking me into it, not gonna lie. But
I saw people picking BYU pretty far. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the Elite Eight nods. We'll talk more about the teams at the bottom. They're definitely hot, and they won a lot of games in the Big 12, right? They're definitely a really solid team. Just to, give them a shout out and pull up some of their rankings here. They landed top 25 in Ken Palm, right, with a brand new head coach. That's really impressive.
yeah,
Number 11 on offense. They're a solid team. I don't think that they're making as deep of a run. I just think that they lucked into where they're playing VCU. The reason you're going to call me crazy is I've got Montana in the next game. So we can talk more about that one. But
oh
I am in
man,
love with the Mountain teams playing in Denver, Montana, winners of the, if you're right, it's not Big West, one of the big sky maybe. Montana coming down to Denver with the whole fan base behind them. Wisconsin again just playing on Sunday, same as VCU, tired, had struggle shooting against Michigan, has to play in the second game of the tournament. Another reason you should be mad about this seeding as your Wisconsin. Wisconsin got an unbelievable seed for losing that game, but they got to play in the second game. The shortest rest of anyone in this tournament is Wisconsin, and they got to go to Mountain Time and play against Montana. I got BYU and Montana in this second round, which I think is an unpopular pick, but that's one of the ones that I'm sticking on.
yeah, dude, I'm reading more information right now, and I'm like, why not pick Montana? Like they're leading the nation in 3-point percentage of
Right?
42%. You
They
know?
definitely would be an upset. They don't have the quality wins, right? They're
Yeah,
not a new team. They know what March is, but they're not a like, oh, they're March. Their
exactly.
biggest wins are against South Dakota State and Northern Colorado, right? Like they
Yeah,
don't have the resume. But what do you need in a true upset? You need a team like Wisconsin that relies on shooting and a guy like John Tonje to be a little off, right? Maybe because
yeah.
he's like not as rested. And you need the best 3-point shooting team in the country to be hot out of nowhere. That's Montana for me. Don't think it makes sense. I do like Wisconsin. They played Michigan well, maybe should have won that game. But I think the rest hurts them here. The NCAA did them dirty with the seeding and location. I like Montana to pull that upset. And that may be why I'm picking BYU is I didn't want two upsets in one bracket, but Wisconsin was one that I was like, make it one round only, but let's do it.
I like it. I like it. The more and more I'm reading that, the more and more I'm like, maybe I should have looked at this a little bit better. Um, yeah, I got Wisconsin and then I got VCU.
Nice.
Uh, Part of the reason I have VCU over BYU is I've been meaning to watch more BYU because they have a prospect Igor Demon who's like top 10 in NBA lists, and like when I've seen BYU, I just haven't really been that impressed. They have good wins in the Big 12. They beat Iowa State twice. They beat Arizona. Killed Kansas at home. But I watched the end of that VCU game against George Mason, and I was rooting for George Mason hard. I was a big George
Same.
Mason guy, and dude, just VCU impressed me. They answered like everything. Every time like George Mason and that big would have a monster and one or a monster play, like VCU just goes down and answers. Max Shugla, their main guy. And I just think VCU is just going to be a little too much. I like what you're saying about the Mountain Time. I like what you're saying about Montana, BYU. I think if I could go back, I would do Montana over Wisconsin. I really, really like that. Not gonna lie, but I'm gonna stick with VCU, Wisconsin.
It's definitely more of a superstition pick. I can imagine everyone's maybe not picking Wisconsin super far, but some people are picking them, Elite Eight to play Duke. and just watching that second game of the tourney at noon and getting
Yeah.
your whole bracket busted by Montana. So I might be leaning into more of the storybook ending, but watch out for the 3-point shooting Grizzlies. I think that could be anyone's ball game, and I actually like the bottom that we're going to talk about here to come out of this Elite Eight. So moving on
Love
to the
it.
next game. Yeah, what are the storylines here?
St. Mary's, Vanderbilt. Let's talk about it. I want to talk about Bama Robert Morris as a Horizon guy. Robert Morris has no chance. Nobody pick him. Like, they're not gonna do anything. All right. I heard some buzz in Horizon communities to pick Robert Morris. That's bogus. They're not good enough. All right. The Horizon was down bad this year. This was one of the worst years, I think, for the conference talent wise in a while. Um, that's why I was really disappointed we didn't get it done, but it is what it is. Robert Morris, congrats to them. One seed in the Horizon, one seed. They won it all. Andy Toole, great coach. But this is a terrible matchup. Like, Robert Morris, known for their offensive rebounding. They're a great passing team. They play well together. But Bama's just going to shoot the lights out on them. And when you're known for your offensive rebounding in a smaller conference where, like, the bigs aren't as prevalent as the Alabama bigs, even without Grant Nelson, it doesn't matter. Bama's going to dominate them big wise and spread them out. So that game, not even going to be close. I'm sorry, Horizon guys, Robert Morris people, but it's not going to be close. Okay. St. Mary's, Vanderbilt. Let's talk about it here. Vandy, when I watched them, I was very impressed. You know, like, it was cool to see a good Vandy team. They beat Tennessee, beat Kentucky, and beat Texas A&M. Those are their main wins, and they were impressive throughout the year. But to me, I think this is St. Mary's. I love watching St. Mary's. Randy Bennett does an unbelievable job every single year. It wasn't the best season for St. Mary's. Like, I think a lot of people expected just a little bit more. But talk about this win in November. They beat USC at USC 71-36. Like, come on. Come on,
Oh
man.
my
Like, this
gosh.
team is really, really impressive. They lost to Gonzaga to end the year. But guess what? They beat them twice throughout the regular season. It's really, really hard to beat a team 3 times in a row, especially when that coach is Mark Few. Like, come on. That's an impossible ask there. I think St. Mary's is really, really impressive. And I got them winning this game.
Yeah, I do too. No knock to Vanderbilt. I don't want to pick the SEC. I feel like I'm half and half when I should be, leaning heavily towards them. But another team where I'm like, in another year, they might not make this field, right? With more bid
Yeah.
stealers. Like, they fell off towards the end. I don't think they have the talent and the, maybe the depth that St. Mary's has. I feel like, they're relying on some transfer players, or St. Mary's obviously builds through recruiting, especially in Europe, right? Like, they've got a lot of people that have played a lot of professional ball, and their point guard, God, I cannot pronounce his name, but he is one of my favorite players to watch. He runs St. Mary's offense like it was designed to be run. And I think that people might have gotten burned picking St. Mary's in the past, and it's not, a team that's built for a Final Four run due to their pace. They're the slowest team, in college basketball. They like to slow it down. But I think that that's just about, getting the right class. And this St. Mary's group has been playing together both overseas and now in college for a while. And I think that they're one of the, most interesting teams. I've got them going actually pretty far, which we'll talk about. But okay, his name is Augustus Marcia Leonis, and he's averaging 14 points a game and 6 assists. He runs their offense like it was designed to be run. He's got great talent around them, some big bodies. They took care of Gonzaga. Gonzaga's a top 10 team, which we'll talk about later. I like St. Mary's to play Alabama here, and we can talk about what's happening next.
All right. So I'll go through my picks real quick. Wisconsin, I have over VCU. And then I have Bama over St. Mary's in a really, really close game. I stared at that for a while. And then Bama, Wisconsin. I took Bama here. I think in this stage, like, Mark Sears is really going to show, and Nate Oates, like, why Bama is Bama. And I think they'll be able to get the job done. A lot of people are lower on Bama going into this. If you look at their KenPom numbers, I mean, they were just really,
number
really
one strength of
impressive.
schedule with everything. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. If you adjusted per possessions with opponents for 40 minutes, they're first in, like, everything, like, when you look at it. So, I mean, they played just a really, really hard schedule. And I think being able to play that hard schedule, that will allow them to beat St. Mary's, who's a really, really good team. And then you're playing against a good team in Wisconsin. But then to me, they're running into Duke. And that's just like three straight games where it's just tough. And like I had a hard time picking them. They're not beating Duke. So I have Duke in my Final Four.
Duke in your Final Four. And you have them beating, was it Oregon? Is that correct? We both had Duke over Oregon.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So this is where I went a little crazy. And I know you might think I just did that with Drake. Drake was not crazy compared to what I'm about to propose to you right now. So I have BYU beating VCU in a very close one. I can see that going either way. I have Montana upsetting Wisconsin, 3-point balls, reigning, right? I have BYU and Montana in the next round. I've got BYU winning. So a lot of people have BYU to the Sweet 16. I have it in a little weirder way, but I do have BYU.
Yeah.
At the bottom here, I have St. Mary's beating Vanderbilt. I have Alabama beating Robert Morris in a close one. I don't think there's going to be a 2-15 upset here, but I do think that Robert Morris is a team that no one's talking about, and Alabama looks tired to me. I know you're giving me that look because you think the Horizon League's down. Robert Morris is hot, 16 of the last 17. I think they come out and give Alabama a little more than they can chew, at least in the first half. All right. So I have St. Mary's, Alabama in the next round. I have St. Mary's beating Alabama. I hope we get this matchup because it's going to be one of the most intriguing in this whole tournament. Number one in pace versus number 357. Alabama wants to run. They want to shoot with 25 seconds on the shot clock. St. Mary's will run a possession for 30 seconds with 20 screens and get a layup. It's going to be very contrasting, and the team that sets the pace wins. And when I was watching Alabama, yes, did they win huge games? Of course, they beat Auburn at Auburn. They might have killed Auburn's season, according to some, right? They are an incredible team. But when I watched Alabama get out of their rhythm, they did not come back in the ways that I thought that Nate Oates' other teams have. The number one overall team, one of the best I've ever seen on the court, right? Brandon Miller, insane. Last year's team that went to a Final Four, incredible. This year's team, Mark Sears has a little bit of doubt in him, I feel like. I don't know if Grant Nelson, coming out of North Dakota is actually what they need in order to maybe take some pressure off of him. Cliff Amore is great. I like Alabama a lot, but I think St. Mary's has what it takes to set the pace the entire game and get Alabama out of their rhythm. They rebound well, they box out, they get back on defense, right? Everything's set up to control. I like St. Mary's beating Alabama and then beating BYU to face Duke in the Elite Eight.
Like that. You talking about that really just like reminds me of last year, Oakland, Kentucky. What we did was slow the game down and make them play against our zone. In this case, like St. Mary's is one of the best man-to-man defenses anyway. So if Bama's a little off shooting wise and St. Mary's plays to their style where it's like, okay, we're going to get the right set play, we're going to get the right bucket here. Like that could really get Bama off guard. And I talked about it last year, how Bama and Kentucky are two teams that are really, really good offensively, but not great defensively. Guess what? It's the same situation this year. They're the same exact teams, like both of those teams. And that's why it was hard for me this game. I think I just relied on the fact that Mark Sears, to me, is the best player on the floor. And that's why I picked Bama. But I love you picking St. Mary's here. I think that's great.
Yeah, I think that that my boy Augustus is going to be able to put him in a bit of a torture chamber. Plays defense the right way, might get into a little bit, not be foul baited as much as Mark Sears likes to do. I want to see that matchup. I just want to see who wins, right? Fast versus slow. I want to see what happens. Randy Bennett is a coach that everyone talks about in March and then might fall short even, right? Even though they're never like a top 4 seed, I feel like they're due for something more. And this is the year I've got it. Gonzaga's not down. People think we'll talk about it again. We'll talk about Gonzaga, but they're not down. They're one of the best teams that they've been statistically, right? They may not have the NBA talent and the number 1 seed, which, totally fair. They played a tough non-conference, but St. Mary's took them, in the 2 regular season games, home and away, took them and beat them and showed that they were the best team in this conference, a conference that has produced a final, game team in the past. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that it's Randy Bennett's best team. I'm sure that he can bring in recruits that go to the NBA and change up his style a little bit. He chose not to. He went international ball, right? He's Tommy Lloyd. He's Gonzaga. He's the same, coaching tree that likes to bring in these players that have played professional basketball since they were 13 years old. I think he's got the right concoction. I've got St. Mary's not only beating Alabama, not only beating BYU, but beating Duke to go to the Final Four. St. Mary's Gales Final Four is my late upset pick of this tournament.
I love that.
All in.
Yeah. No, you got to be. You got to be at that point. And I feel like everybody's picking Duke, so that zag is not bad.
I won't be mad if that one loses, but that one is my crazy, how did this team get in pick of the tournament.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I like that. I like that a lot. All right. You ready to scroll down? You ready to
Let's do
move
it.
on? All right.
Let's do it. The last region, probably the hardest region to pick, which is crazy because we've talked about every single game, but I feel like we've had a consensus pick on a lot of these. This one is tough.
This one's tough, man. I mean, like looking at it, I mean, I was talking to some of the people at Oakland today, and they were like, "How do you pick against Houston? They're awesome." You know, like everybody loves Houston going in. So I think clearly we have Houston over SIU Edwardsville, and then you were talking about Gonzaga here. Like this is a team that's like top 10 in Ken Palm still. They're top 10 in like every metric that you love, and guess what? They're an 8 seed. Like it's flat out insane. If I was Houston, I'd be like, "What? What are we doing here?" You know. So they're going against Georgia. I think this is going to be a really interesting game. Another good SEC team. Um, a lot of people just think Gonzaga will dominate this game. I'm not so sure. Ace Newell is really, really good, and Georgia tends to just muck it up for teams. They're a really, really big team that will force Gonzaga into some different stuff, which might scare a lot of people, but Gonzaga is a lot better than you would think. Graham Ike is unbelievable. They have Caleb Battle from Arkansas, who's awesome, just an athlete. And then Ryan Nemhard, absolute stud. I love him. So looking at it that way, I think Gonzaga will end up winning this game, but I think Georgia might play them tough.
Yeah, I agree. I could see it a bunch of ways, right? Normally with an 8-9 game, you kind of flip a coin and pick who you want to because they're going to get blown out by the 1 seed anyway, right? And Houston shouldn't be any different, right? If LJ's Cryer is playing the way he should, they're going to be one of the best teams in the tournament and should go all the way to the Final Four, right? That said, Houston's given me nothing to believe in them the past 5 years. And I know it's not fair to judge a program on, anything but this year. And what they've done is they've won the Big 12 for the second year in a row. They've won their conference 5 years in a row. They won the Big 12 after joining as new members. They've dominated what used to be, the best conference, after the ACC's reign was the Big 12, right? Super impressive team. LJ Cryer is amazing. Every time we get to March, I feel like an injury bug hits them. They get upset, right? Maybe even make the Final Four, but I think they made 2 of the past 10 years, and they've gone to like 10 Elite Eights. Like, it's something crazy. So, I don't know. This year's got the same feel for me. Juwan Roberts being hurt, I just don't know if, even if he does play, I don't know if Houston has it again in March. I feel like they use a lot of their juice going into this tournament versus Gonzaga. If they beat Georgia, I feel like they're on a path to do something special. What have they done this year, right? People might look at it and say, well, they've done nothing. They lost to St. Mary's twice, right? And you can't lose to St. Mary's if you're Gonzaga, right? That's what you do is you win your weaker, quote unquote, weaker conference, right?
Yeah.
If you look at some of the games they won, they beat Baylor, right? 101-63. That's another tournament team. They went to Indiana and won, right? They lost to Kentucky by 1 point, the 3 seed in this tournament, right? So obviously the St. Mary's games are definitely what's bringing them down because if they ran away with this conference, they'd be a 4 seed again. It's no doubt. But they're doing all this against great teams to start the year, and then they get to the one and done scenario in their tournament, and they win the WCC tourney, right? They're built for times like this, even when they're not as talented. And by talented, I mean a top 4 team in the country, right? On their down years, they're built for these tourneys. I think if they beat Georgia, it's a sign they're doing something special. I've got Gonzaga over Houston in the second round, which I don't think is a crazy pick, but I definitely, think would be, wild for Houston to have another talented year like this and end up short. So interested to see what your thoughts are in a Houston Gonzaga matchup.
Yeah. I'm not going to add much. I'm in 100% agreement here. I actually picked Gonzaga over Houston as well. And it's really matchup based for me. Like looking at it, Gonzaga is still top 10 in net rating in
Yep.
college basketball. And Houston, of course, they're up there. LJ Crier's been awesome. But like the thing that stands out to me is Gonzaga's one of the best offenses in basketball, whereas Houston, one of the best defenses and physically imposing. I don't think the physical imposingness will matter against Gonzaga. I don't even think it'll matter against Georgia, to be honest, because Georgia's big and they're physical and they muck it up. I just don't think it's a great matchup no matter what happens for Houston in this next round. And I love Houston. I've picked them to win it all multiple years. I think I picked them last year with Jamal Shed. And I'm looking at Houston. I wanted to pick them far, but man, like Gonzaga, is just awesome. They hit free throws. They take care of the ball. I think they're the nation's best at taking care of the ball, if I'm reading that right. And that's huge against a team that forces like the most turnovers in college basketball. I don't know if that's true, but it's up there for sure. So looking at it that way, I think picking Gonzaga over Houston, I think it's the move. Houston's one of the hottest teams. If you don't want to do it, like I'd probably pick Houston to make it to the Final Four then if you don't want to have them lose there. But I just think it's a tough matchup in this spot.
I agree. That's the scary part. They're definitely the weakest one seed, but if you get past Gonzaga, I feel like they have a pretty nice path, and it means they're playing well. So can go back and forth on that one for your bracket. For mine, I like Gonzaga here. But yeah, I agree. I would not hate on someone picking Houston to go all the way to the final game, even, right? But I think most people have Duke and Auburn, right? Like Houston's the last one seed. You want to pick something crazy to happen? Look at Gonzaga. I think they could do it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that one. I like that one a lot. Okay. Scrolling down, we got Clemson and McNeese and then Purdue High Point. I want to talk about this Clemson McNeese game. So Clemson was, I believe, a 5 seed last year, right?
Yes.
And they were
I
playing
picked them
against
to lose.
yeah, they were playing against the dangerous 12 seed. And
Yeah.
I'm in this situation again. And to be honest, I'm saying screw it. I'm going McNeese here. And I picked them last year, but this year they got Breed, who's awesome. He's averaging 17.5 points a game. And the thing that impressed me was like immediately when the season started, they went to Alabama and played them really tight, you know? And I mean, they have a couple losses in here where you're like, seriously, like Mississippi State, I wanted them to win that game so bad. That was a close one.
Totally.
They barely lost that one. And then they lost to Liberty early as well. So, I mean, if you're a McNeese, I think you wanted a little more throughout the out of conference schedule. And then when they got the conference, they just flat out dominated. They showed you why they're that good and why they deserve a 12 seed here. And you're looking at Will Wade, like he's gotten here before. He's done the job. So now it's going to be like, okay, can you take the next step? Can you win the game here? And I think this comes down to Clemson with a little like, hey, maybe we can make a run. Maybe we can get back to the Elite Eight. Maybe we can get back here thinking ahead, whereas McNeese is going to bite you when you're looking ahead. So I think McNeese sneaks out of this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if you made it to this part of the podcast, you'll understand why we're so bad at picking these brackets because I also have McNeese. And I'd hate to give it the same reason I did last year where it's 5-12 matchup and McNeese has Will Wade, right? Like that's just not good enough. So
Yeah.
to give you some more reasoning to it, Will Wade was a student manager at Clemson.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was it's his alma mater. He cares about this game. He's got a team that has been to the tournament before and lost and know the feeling and don't want to replicate it. He plays tight. He plays really good teams tight and wins those games. He blows out bad teams, right? He doesn't let teams hang around. They took care of their conference. They had one mission again, and it's to get this tournament win. And now he has a chance to do it against his alma mater, right? I like Will Wade for that reason. I think Clemson's coach might be getting nods to other programs. Will Wade just signed a 6-year extension. Not saying that he won't get poached, but I think that he brings maybe a little personal edge to this game. Clemson, maybe want to see a little more from them in the ACC tournament. I think that they had their run last year. I'm picking McNeese, even though I know Clemson will go to the Final Four after saying that, but I like McNeese.
I like it too. High Point Purdue. Do you think High Point has a chance? A lot of people were talking about High Point. To be honest, I think Purdue's gonna run away with this one. I really do. Like I don't think Purdue's in the stage where they're gonna get upset at this point, and I have Purdue running away with this one.
Yeah, again, I'm in the agreement, which almost scares me because a lot of teams are talking about High Point. Give a shout out to them. It's their first year of eligibility as well, and they made the tournament. Like, definitely a team that I think you want to, give props to as a fun upset pick because they've been building this for 3 years when they weren't even able to get into the tourney, and now they can, right? The interesting part for me, I think that, and I'm just pulling up their roster again here. So, High Point obviously has a lot of transfers because that is just the, era of college basketball that we live in. So it's not like they're all D2 guys that are coming in here.
Yeah.
But what I like about them is that their bigs are pretty, I feel like, more consistent of a tournament style team. They have a
Okay.
6'10" center and a 7-foot center.
Yeah.
2 6'10" centers, sorry. That's pretty unique for a mid-major team, I think. And what I saw when Purdue played Michigan is that Kaufman-Renn isn't that big. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's good, but he can get bodied. Vlad Golden put him in a body bag for the whole second half.
Yeah.
Purdue's not that big. So if you like High Point because they can maybe space the floor with some bigs that can get Kaufman-Renn out of his comfort zone, go for it. I think Braden Smith's the difference maker, Big Ten Player of the Year, got to a national championship last year. Purdue's known for losing early. They ended that last year. I think he takes care of business. Purdue McNeese next round.
Yeah. No, I agree. That High Point center, I believe, is Jocelyn Bodo. Is that his
Yes,
name?
that's right.
Yeah,
That's who it is. Yeah,
that's an
7-footer,
awesome name.
Bodo.
That is an
Yeah.
awesome name. If they win,
Yes.
like that will be the name, like going around
Yeah.
for sure.
You got it.
Okay. So top of the bracket, we both have Gonzaga over Houston. And we both have Purdue and McNeese. Who do you got here?
I have McNeese beating Purdue.
Okay.
I think that a win for them shows me that they're a legit tournament team. I think Purdue is an overranked 4 seed. They are not as deep as they were last year. Had a big game against Michigan, and Fletcher Lawyer went 0 for 7. I think that they just might, have another non-show up game. I like McNeese as a 12 seed to go to the Sweet 16 and lose to Gonzaga.
Yeah, to me, I'm at the stage where I don't think Matt Painter will accept another loss to an upset, like because McNeese would be an upset. So
double-digit
I got
seed,
Purdue.
yeah.
I got Purdue here, and then I have Gonzaga over Purdue in the next round. Yeah, but overall, Braden Smith difference maker in that game as well.
Totally
be tough to deal with him. Okay, we got Illinois versus the winner of Texas and Xavier. What are your thoughts here? We can go quick.
Yeah, Illinois is an interesting one. Very interesting because they are not hot at all. They're not hot at all. They started the season as very, highly ranked, and then won some pretty big games. Lost some pretty big games, but played a tough schedule, right? And what everyone said about Illinois is that they have NBA talent, right? I think what Matt Painter did last year, getting his team to the Elite Eight, is going to prevail here. I think that they may not be rusty. I think they're rested. I think they just needed a reset button, and they're going to get it against a Texas or Xavier team that, again, wouldn't have made the tournament last year if there were bid stealers, right? Like, they're great teams. I just don't know if they have it. I have Illinois beating Texas and Xavier, but not going farther than – actually, sorry, I am actually going to the Sweet 16 again. So I have Illinois going pretty far.
All right.
I think talent and coaching is going to prevail over who's hot and who's not. So Illinois kind of a sneaky 6 seed for me. People are overlooking them. Interested to see who you have.
Yeah. We played Illinois again, and initially I was really, really impressed. Like, there's so much talent on the floor. Yakachonis is awesome. Will Riley's starting to play better. There's so much with this team.
Yeah.
And then, it's just been disappointing when it got to Big Ten play. It's just been really disappointing. And I was kind of shocked they were 6 seed. I kind of envisioned them more on the 7-8 line. To me, I just don't think they're going that far. I think Texas or Xavier will beat them. Texas has been hot. They played great in the SEC tournament, lost a little early. Xavier also played pretty well in the Big East tournament, played St. John's really well. So I think overall, I don't think Illinois is going to go too far. I actually have Texas and Xavier over them. And then the other game, I have Kentucky. I don't think they lose 2 years in a row in the first round. So I have Kentucky. And then I actually have Kentucky beating Texas or Xavier. So Kentucky moving the Sweet 16, even while injured.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right, the last 2 games. So we got UCLA, Utah State, and then Tennessee, Wofford. Tennessee, easy, right? We can just cross
Tennessee, easy. Wofford's, again, a fun team to watch, but I think, they maybe snuck out a win they shouldn't have in their conference championship. I think Tennessee takes care of them here.
Yeah, watch out for the guy shooting free throws underhanded.
I do love that. And as you'll see unfold, I have Tennessee going pretty far, so I think Wofford might win this game.
Other game, UCLA, Utah State. Every part of my being wanted to take Utah State. Again, Mountain West guy. I love the Mountain
Mountain
West.
West guy.
Yep. And their coach last year was at Youngstown State. He did an unbelievable job, Calhoun. Really helped this team go do something. You know, they were one of the best mid majors for sure. But I'm taking UCLA here. I was really impressed with how they finished the season and what Mick Cronin did with the team. So I'm going UCLA.
Love it. I'll take Utah State for you just so we can flip flop the Midwest picks. I
Love
agree
it.
with you there. I think UCLA is impressive. I don't like that they lost their first game in the Big Ten tournament. I think that was a bad sign. I feel like that was
Yeah.
get ready for the March Madness, and they got drummed. So I'll give Utah State some credit. Don't think they're going far, but we can flip flop on those picks because I know you had New Mexico. So
Yeah. It's definitely tough with UCLA, though, where Wisconsin hits 18 threes or something
yeah,
ridiculous,
yep.
where they just stood no chance from the beginning. You
Mm-hmm.
know, yeah, that one was tricky. And I was
That one
upset
was
about
tough.
that because I picked UCLA to win my conference tournament. But whatever. It's all right. Those picks are out of the way. Okay.
Exactly.
So looking at it, I think we both have Tennessee in our Sweet 16. You have Illinois. So Tennessee, Illinois. Do you think Illinois stands any chance here? And if that was the
Yeah,
matchup?
I have Illinois over Kentucky because of the injuries. I also don't think that Mark Pope, first year Kentucky head coach, has it all figured out. I think he's very
Okay.
good. I think they're going to be
Yeah.
successful in the future. He had some struggles with BYU in the tournament. People had them going pretty far the last couple of years, and he lost early. Right, he doesn't win in March. It's something that he's taglined with. Right, Brad Underwood finally broke the seal of getting to the second weekend last year, went all the way to Elite Eight. I think he's
Yeah.
got it. So I have him there. Can let you talk more about Kentucky's upside, but Tennessee is a team I have coming out of this region just to give them some props. Ty Ziegler is a March Madness point guard. He doesn't lead the team in points, but he does in assists, right? Like that's what you want as a college point guard. He's a dog. Number one defensive team, I think two after St. John's. Number one, the SEC, the toughest conference, right? Got all the way to their conference final and lost, so don't have like the stink of like we just won our conference title on them. I think they have maybe some reset that they can afford. And Chaz Lanier is a dog. Like they went and got a scorer. They went and got a guy in March who can put up 20 a game. I think that Tennessee has enough to not only go to the Elite Eight, but I have them actually beating Gonzaga in the Final Four here. So I can let you talk about the Kentucky-Tennessee matchup, but pretty interesting how many SEC matchups we might have in this tourney.
I know. It's really interesting. And the fact of the matter is if it ends up with Kentucky, Tennessee, Kentucky beat Tennessee 2 times this year and dominated them, and that was just offense going over defense. Like Kentucky shot the crap out of the ball in both those games. I watched those games pretty closely, both times just to get an opinion. And my opinion actually worsened of Kentucky after those games because I was like, they're just hitting every shot. Like there's nothing Tennessee can do. But Chaz Lanier, awesome. You talked about him. He's one of the best scorers in college basketball, and he's just fun to watch. And then it's the guy Ziegler. Just he's back, man. He's back. Last year we didn't see him at like top tier, and 2 years ago we saw him there. Like I'm glad he's back to this level. It's really fun to watch. And then if you're looking at Kentucky, they've just dealt with so many injuries. It's been tough.
Yeah.
But the reason why I have them going this far is Mark Pope runs such good offensive sets. I love how they play offense. And the thing is, it's like a lot of people rip on their defense. A lot of people rip on Alabama's defense. This year, it's not as bad as like last year with the outlier. It's not as bad as like first and like 100th something. This is like first and like 40th or 30th, like with both of them, so like looking at it that way, that's why I think they can win that second round matchup. And it's partly because I think Texas or Xavier is good, but they're not like that good. So that's why I think Kentucky can make it there. But with Kentucky, Tennessee's winning that game because it's almost impossible to beat a team 3 times in a row. And I think the only reason Kentucky beat them twice was because they were shooting the crap out of the ball. So I'd have Tennessee. And then we both have Tennessee, Gonzaga. I think I'd have Tennessee over them just because at that stage, I feel like Gonzaga, this offense would finally get slowed down playing against a different style of defense. And that's why Tennessee would win that game.
Yeah, I think that Tennessee's like a Virginia of this year's tournament where they, definitely shine with their defense. They had some guys sit out in some key games during the regular season that might have cost them. Like when they have one person out, they might score 30 points in a game, right? And still have a chance to win, but just can't put it up. Everyone's healthy. Everyone's playing well. I think if Houston makes the Elite Eight, that defensive matchup would be unbelievable. But I
Yeah.
still think Tennessee could pull that off.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree for sure. It would come down to like athletes, and this is the first Tennessee defense that like really has those athletes to like go at you. You know, Felix Okpara, right? Okpara, I think's
Yes.
the last
Yeah.
name. He's awesome. Like he's fun to watch on the defensive end. And Houston has a couple of those guys where they're big and can get into you. And I think that's part of the reason, like, if they're seeing Gonzaga, like Graham Ike, great offensive player, but he's not going to do that to you on the defensive end. Whereas Okpara can dominate the class and be that defensive force. And I think that would
Yep.
be the main reason why Tennessee would win that game. Okay. Final fours. Go through your
Yeah.
final four and give me your champion.
Yeah, running down my list, the two no-brainers I had were the Florida Gators and Michigan State coming out of the left side of the region, the South and the West.
Yeah.
I think that Florida beats Michigan State in that game. I love MSU. I think that they play a unique style of basketball that fits the college game that other teams might not be ready to face. They got to play a lot of SEC to get through here. They might have to play 3 in a row at one point. I think Florida might be final boss for them there, right? I think that Florida gets to the final game. Other
Like
side,
it.
I have St. Mary's beating Duke to get to the Final Four. Could see Duke for sure, but St. Mary's is my wild card team. And then I have the Volunteers of Tennessee beating Gonzaga to go to the Final Four. So I have the Gales of St. Mary's versus Tennessee. I have Tennessee winning that matchup. And in a year where the SEC has been all we talk about, we have an SEC final matchup, Tennessee versus Florida. I have Tennessee winning that game with defense. So could see any of those 4 teams winning. Could see Duke crashing my entire bracket, but I do have Tennessee, St. Mary's, Michigan State, and Florida.
SEC tournament final rematch. I like
That's
it.
right.
I
That's right. I
like it.
didn't get
Right,
enough. I didn't get
right in the
enough.
national championship. I like
We
it. I
saw it
like
already. We didn't even know it.
it. Yeah. No, I mean, those are the two teams I really like. I really, really like those teams out of the SEC. So I really like that championship. Tennessee's fun, man. They're really fun. I picked them far last year, and I feel like they got the pieces this year to really make it dangerous.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, it'll be tough to go through some 1 seeds, but I think that their defense is going to outshine a lot of these, streaky hot teams.
Like it. Like it. Okay, going through mine, I have Tennessee as well, beating
Mm-hmm.
Gonzaga in my Final Four. I have Duke beating Alabama, which is my only 1-2 matchup to make the Elite Eight. And then we get wild. All right. We got Texas Tech beating Florida. I don't think that's too wild. I think JT
I like
Toppin
that.
and that team, like, they're legit. They're legit. I
Yep.
think more people should take Texas Tech seriously when I think a lot of people might have them lose to Drake, or might have them even lose to UNC Wilmington. They might just shock
Right.
people,
Right.
So I think Texas Tech there is a legit Final Four pick. And then Creighton beating Iowa State.
Nice.
I think for this one, like, I really like Cockburner, and I'm banking a lot on him and the shooters that Creighton have to really get hot at the right time and make it happen. That's why I think it's a very big possibility that could happen. I could also see Louisville making a run. I think Louisville would have more trouble if they were playing at Texas A&M because they would really get into them and they wouldn't have a big to rely on. That's part of the reason I think Creighton would be okay if they play Texas A&M. And I think in a normal year, I would have picked Iowa State out of this bracket. I think if Gilbert was healthy and if I really could trust like how it was, I think Iowa State built a great team. And that's part of the reason why I have them in my Elite Eight still. I think everybody's going to have Michigan State, which makes complete sense to me. But the fact that it's a consensus really makes me rethink.
Totally.
And I loved watching Michigan State. We played them this year and they were awesome. We were tied with them at halftime. And then guess what? They came out with a completely different game plan and beat us by 30. Okay. Like they should. So Michigan State, unbelievable. Tom Izzo has a lot of success in March. Everybody loves each other on that team. I just think this New Mexico team is really tough. I think that's going to be a tough matchup for them. Donovan Dent is one of the best players in college basketball. This is not Michigan State hate. I want to get that on the record. This is not Michigan State hate at all because they're awesome. But this is just a zag. I'm really trying to zag out of it because the consensus pick here is to pick Michigan State.
Yeah, I think that if you pick someone like St. Mary's to go to the Final Four, pick someone like Creighton to go to the Final Four. You might as well mix it up in that bracket because one team could ruin it for you, right? You're putting your money on Tennessee and Duke, right? You're not putting your money on these other teams, so you're just trying to spruce up a little bit. I like your Creighton pick a lot. I think that obviously Auburn could run through it, and we'll be sitting here like, what happened? But also, a team like Texas A&M, like some random team could ruin that bracket. So you might as well pick one that you are strong in. I like Mexico. I like Creighton. That's what I did for St. Mary's, right? Obviously, they have an easier path if they don't have to face Wisconsin. They have an easier path if they don't have to face Duke if Oregon upsets them. Like, there's things that can happen, but I believe in the team itself. So that's why I got St. Mary's. So not hating on your Creighton pick at all. I think that Texas Tech is what Iowa State wanted to be. So I like that pick as well. Should be some fun Final Fours. All right, who do you got winning? I have Florida versus Tennessee. Who do you got?
I have Texas Tech versus Duke.
Nice.
Texas Tech I think would be too much for Creighton. And then if you're looking at a Duke Tennessee matchup, that would be so much fun. It would be so much fun to see that kind of defense. Like, that would be like my national championship. It really would. Cooper Flag against that kind of defense with Kai Ziegler on the floor. Like, that would be such a fun matchup, and I want that matchup so bad. And then Duke, Texas Tech, I really think it'll be a tight game. Texas Tech will be playing at an extreme level because they would have to go through St. John's and Florida to get there in my bracket. I think Duke gets it done at the end of the day. I think Cooper Flag is one of the best prospects we've seen. And if he's playing at a healthy level, even if he's not, I'm not too concerned. I really am not. Like, you saw Duke just dominate the ACC tournament without him.
Yeah.
And again, the ACC is down. Like, I get that. But Duke has so much NBA talent on the floor already. Con Knipple, unbelievable. And I just did a Cooper Flag scouting breakdown. And, like, he's literally the best prospect I've seen since Cade. With Wemby's in his own tier, you can't do that. And then it scoots maybe even in a higher tier as well as a prospect. But if you're looking at it like Cade and then him, they're very similar, and it's awesome to see that. And you should definitely tank for Cooper Flag because he is awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Didn't give any props to Duke clearly with my bracket. They're the team to beat. Second best analytical team of all time to themselves in 1998 or something like that. So, like, they are for real. Like, they are legit. They're a great team. The injury scares me. I know that it's not a high ankle sprain, and he'll be the best player on the floor. If he had to go one-legged, it's not a big deal. But he's got an NBA career ahead of him. This isn't like Duke of past where he's getting ready for a 4-year run. He's going to make $30 million next year. Maybe there's something in his head that's being like, maybe I pull up a little, like he's had some issues slipping on the court. Maybe I pull up for this jumper. Maybe, there's just something in it where I'm like, maybe Texas Tech playing in San Antonio, right? Playing in their home state has that dog in them, and someone can upset Duke. So believe me, easier said than done. I think Con Knipple is the second best freshman in the country. So they got a lot of, stuff cut out for him, but I like that pick.
Love it. All right, well, Asher, another year of March Madness preview in the books. How do we feel about the picks? How do we feel about the picks?
I feel like this was our best one. I feel like we did a good job of being a little crazy, with the later picks. Maybe a little more consensus on the first round upsets, but I didn't pick NC State last year, and they went to the Final Four, right? Like, I think that you got to be bold. As long as you have two solid teams in your Final Four, be bold with the others, right? Put all your points on the Gators and the Volunteers. Put all your points on Auburn, right? Do something where it's like, yeah, I got the chalk, but I'm not letting that decide my entire bracket, right? Be a little crazy with it. That's the best way to enjoy the games. And definitely write out your picks on a paper bracket and put it on your fridge because that makes it real.
Yep, that's true. It's true, man. I mean, it's the best time of the year. I feel like we say this is our best picks every year. So hopefully we hit this year. Hopefully it's definitely there.
Oh, man, I will see you after Wofford beats Tennessee.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up part 2 for this 2-part March Madness preview. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching, wherever you're at. Go like, subscribe on YouTube, and follow the show on Spotify. I will see you guys next time. Peace.